This is a podcast by the Straits Times.
Hello, you're listening to In Your Opinion, and I'm Lynda Hong, ST's Assistant Podcast Editor. In this episode brought to you by the National Youth Council, we look at how youths can put in their time and efforts in community work with the Youth Corps Singapore, which turns 10 this year. Youth Corps Singapore is a division under the National Youth Council that champions youth volunteerism to ignite positive change in society through community service. To talk more about the benefits of youth volunteerism in Singapore, we have two Youth Corps volunteers in the studio with us. Afzal Hadi completed the Youth Corps Leaders Program in 2017 and has been volunteering and leading initiatives as part of various Youth Corps clusters such as Ambassadors Team and Engagement Taskforce. He also works in business development. Welcome to the show, Afzal.
Hello, happy to be here.
And also in the studio is Valerie Kwa. She has served in Youth Corps Mental Health Cluster for the past 4 years. Professionally, she works in the social service sector. Glad to have you here, Valerie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, let's start off with Afzal. You have an interesting story, and that's how volunteering has transformed your life and career. Let's hear more about it. So how has it actually transformed your life and career?
Wow, it's a huge question because I've been with Youth Corps for about 8 years, so it's quite a while. And counting, hopefully. I think for me, life-wise, what has been pretty interesting was, I think my experience was primarily through the Youth Corps Leaders Program. And part of that program involved a lot of internal deep work, kind of figuring out who you are before you can contribute to others. And I think one of the biggest, I think shout out to Beyond Social Services, they were my community partner during the program. What really struck me in that experience was that a lot of times we talk about empowerment, and I think it's a word that's being thrown around a lot. I think the biggest thing I got out of the experience there was this idea of when you work with communities, it's not about working or doing stuff to them or for them, it's about doing things with them. I think that's where empowerment really came into play, and that was one of the biggest experiences, just in a very short sentence, that really shifted how I viewed communities and work. The interesting part to me, at least, for the experience was that I noticed that I was volunteering quite a lot in school, in university, while I was still studying. And I realized based on the math of the number of days, 7 days a week, I'd be volunteering, going for programs for about 4 days, and school was about 2 to 3 days. So I told myself, okay, you know what, I think my time and calendar is telling me that this matters more to me than studies. So it was quite a privileged choice that I dropped out of school, and I went to venture out to do some work, social work and stuff, and based on my career, I would say that I kind of pivoted to do social work as my new undergrad course after I dropped out of business school. Yeah, so that was like in a nutshell.
So why did you actually drop out of business school to go into social work?
Great question. It was primarily because I didn't feel or I didn't see the purpose of it. I think when I went to business school, it was because everybody was doing it and it was just a very safe course. But I think through my time with Youth Corps and volunteering in different organizations, I found that was, if I were to take a look at an example of a compass and its analogy, I wouldn't say that I found my bearings, but I found that kind of, is it okay to Singlish here? Like,
yeah, sure.
Agak-agak, I think that's kind of where I want to go, and business was kind of out of the picture. So that was where I kind of pivoted myself to go into social services. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So volunteering had actually made you switch courses then?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Valerie, you have been volunteering in the mental health cluster with the Youth Corps since 2020. What makes you want to advocate for mental health?
I think it was a longer journey before that. I think like in JC years, I also started thinking about like career choices, like going to uni, what do I want to study? And I think psychology was something that popped up into my mind, but I didn't really think much about it until like uni, when I started taking psychology modules and I met new friends. Yeah, I think then the conversation really started, like what is it about the mental health field? What's it about the mental health scene that really draws me to this subject at the end of the day? Yeah, I think all the conversations and we talking about what's happening on the ground, even with like friends, family. I think it's a very untalked about topic back then in 2020. Yeah, and I think the conversation was way before that as well. So it was like there's something lacking. And I think like after a lot of conversations, it's like big ideas. I think me and my friend used to think of like the things that we could do to better the mental health scene. So I think with that opportunity kind of like presented itself to actually join the mental health cluster, I took that as like a bigger step forward to actually come forward and be part of like a bigger group or bigger movement to advocate for mental health. Because I think there are conversations for sure, but I think it's always the awareness and the help seeking that's very much lacking in the society still. So I think that really started off my journey, and I stayed for 4 years with the mental health cluster.
And apart from the mental health cluster that Valerie is volunteering in, there are 12 course-based and skills-based clusters in Youth Corps, including children, youth and family, eldercare, special needs, Beyond Singapore, sustainability and facilitators network. Now, Valerie, maybe you want to explain how each cluster is being run?
So I think generally clusters run similar to each other. So it's like a youth-led cluster group. So they are formed based on like youth interests. So like that's how the mental health cluster was formed also. So a group of individuals with similar passions and interests, they came together under Youth Corps to form these clusters. So as it expands, each cluster has like a executive committee group that runs like the more operational planning level stuff. And then they do kind of like recruit members on a yearly basis to kind of form up the base of the cluster. So then the cluster also have a Youth Corps staff that supports, operationally, also guidance for in terms of planning. There's like events planning, program planning. Yeah, so I think that's how the clusters generally work. So there is some form of structure, and then the events are generally open to public. Yeah, so public for youths to come and join our events. Yeah.
And Afzal, you are a Youth Corps leader. What advice would you give to someone, who is interested to sign up for the Youth Corps Leaders Program?
I think for someone new who's wanting to join the Youth Colleges program, or YCLP for short, I would say to enter with a heart of curiosity. I think many times, or at least a fallacy, or something I believe in myself is, many times we believe that clarity leads to action. Like we need to be super clear and very sure before we take action. I choose to believe, since joining Youth Colleges program, that action leads to clarity. Like when we take the first step, and then we can refine and get sharper along the way. And then I think that's where this idea of getting clear on to really what's your purpose in this place comes to life. So I think I would say for someone new who wants to join Youth Colleges program, just join, apply once you're in, and then kind of figure out your way through and see where you fit into this space of contribution.
Okay. And Valerie, then, you lead a team of 9 members in publicity for the mental health cluster. Can you describe your personal growth journey?
Definitely like a lot of new things I learned about myself. I think stepping up to a leadership role was also something new. It was a challenge for myself also. And I think I also kind of learned more about my leadership style when I started communicating to members, doing the work together with them. I think that also made me realize that, okay, I prefer to be the kind that supports the member from the back. Like I want to empower them to make as much decisions as possible. So I always believe in more of a flat hierarchy, where it doesn't mean that I'm the lead and therefore whatever I say is the answer or what the right thing to do. But I like open discussions and open conversations, because honestly, as volunteers, every member comes in with different life experiences. They have their own set of skills as well. And all these are gems. They are gems to be touched on, them gems to be explored. So having that openness, I think it helped me grow also in terms of like communicating and also listening, empathizing with other people. And I think that helped to build the team bond, which then it allowed for the work that we do to kind of flourish and to grow slowly as well. Yeah, so I think a lot of self-discovery over the past term where I was the lead, and I think it's to come. Yeah, so I think that's been an interesting journey.
So far, can you maybe explain, how did this experience help you understand your leadership style?
I think it's more of the few times I stepped out to a leadership role, and definitely as a volunteer, I think it made me realize what I prioritize as a leader. Yeah, and sometimes is also trial and error and being open to get feedback, because I realized that helps me grow more as a leader rather than being closed. Because initially, I think a lot of people's perception is like, I made it as a leader. So then there are certain things certain characteristics that will have to make people listen to me. But I realized that also has to be earned. It goes both ways. Yeah, so I think that's like new areas of leadership that I didn't really consider a lot before these experiences. And I think these also helped me broaden like what a leader truly means in a volunteering setting as well.
And now back to the discussion with host Lynda Hong as she finds out more about the benefits of youth volunteerism in Singapore with 2 Youth Corps volunteers Afzal Hadi and Valerie Kwa. This episode is brought to you by the National Youth Council.
Youth Corps provides opportunities for youths to learn, volunteer, lead and connect. And from May to July 2024, Youth Corps will be holding the Do Good Fest, providing more than 3,000 volunteering and learning opportunities. Rounding off Do Good Fest, Youth Corps will be organising a 10th anniversary carnival at Scape Play Space in Somerset on 6 July 2024. Visitors can head to different booths to learn about the different clusters, try out experiential activity relating to volunteerism, consider joining the various clusters, and sign up for future volunteering opportunities. There'll also be food, games, and limited edition Youth Corps 10th anniversary merchandise. Now, to both Valerie and Afzal, what's your advice for interested volunteers, for youths? How can they pick up the areas that they want to volunteer in? Maybe we start with Afzal?
Cool. I almost played the ladies first card, but okay, sure.
Too late.
Too late. I think for youths who want to volunteer, I would say just do it. I mean, just to kick off Nike, right? Just do it. Primarily because, especially in Youth Corps Singapore, it really is quite like it's a bit like a buffet. Mm-hmm. You can just try multiple different kind of areas that you might be interested in.
Right.
And I think no one's going to hold you down if you're more interested in working with children as compared to seniors. Like, you do you. And I think that's the beauty of Youth Corps, where you can try, figure out what you're into, and then go deep from there. Yeah. So just try. I think that's what I would say.
Okay, and Valerie?
Actually, I was going to say something similar. Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, I agree there's a variety. And if you don't feel like you want to commit to a cluster straight away, I mean, every cluster has events. So you can start off small, like you go and experience what it is like volunteering or even being part of a bigger volunteering group, right? Before you decide like what cluster you want. Because some people have a lot of different interests. I think at the end of the day, it's not good to burn yourself out like tackling all your interests. So start small. You just go for an event, go for 2 events, and then slowly see which clusters work or the advocacy work calls out to you more, and then just join. Yeah, I think there's no harm in trying, and I think there's always opportunities for you out there, so long as you're willing to take that first step. Yeah, the opportunity is always there.
Do you spend a lot of time volunteering? Do your family and friends comment why you volunteer? What is their reaction to it? To your volunteering, commitments?
For me, because it's been like 4 years in the same cluster, I mean, I moved progressively from member to exco to team lead now. So I think the commitment level definitely increased. So people's always asking me like, why are you so busy? But then at the end of the day, there's always that question. It's like, are you happy and satisfied with what you're doing? And my answer is yes. Like, I love the things I'm doing with the mental health cluster. I love meeting the people. I love doing the work. And I also love like talking to people about like mental health issues. So I think at the end of the day, yes, the commitment is there, but it's my choice to commit to these volunteering activities and events. So I think it's something that I will want to hold myself to it. Yeah. So I mean, people have been encouraging about it. Some people are also curious. And I think that's where conversation starts. Curiosity, right? You get curious about what I'm doing, and then I share with you. And then you talk to other people about it. So that's how also conversations about mental health get started, and even other areas of interest as well. So I think people have been generally quite supportive. Not much negative comments, actually. Yeah, on the time I've been spending on volunteering, yeah.
Yeah, very lighthearted, Yuval. I think for me, it is very lighthearted, but I think I'll share the other side, where I think the most common question I hear from friends and family as well, colleagues as well, is, bro, you're not tired? It's like after work, you still do this, on the weekends, you still do this. And I think for me personally, I would say that it's been quite a journey, about 8 years-ish. I would say in the earlier days when Youth Corps was kind of still youngish, I think it was the people that brought me through. I think every time I come to the red box where Youth Corps is, there's always a familiar face, be it a staff, be it a fellow volunteer. Even the front desk people are very friendly people. But over time, as people shift and Youth Corps gets much bigger, it is the purpose that brings me through. I think it's knowing what I'm there for, and the people can come and go, but I think what I stand true for pulls me through. So I think that's my response to whenever somebody asks, like, bro, you're not tired? I say, I find my purpose here, and it's fine.
Okay. So maybe before we end off this podcast then, could you share with us, the joys of volunteering? Valerie, ladies first again?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there are a lot of little moments of joy. I would say it's more the little moment of joys rather than the big moments. So I mean, like for publicity, for mental health cluster, we did release like this YouTube talk series as well. I think that brought together two strangers to talk about a common shared experience. And I think that's something that I still remember very deeply. Like after the shoot, they went out for lunch, they had conversations, and that's also how you get people to bond and you meet over a shared experiences. And I think that's very similar to a lot of the events, right? You get to meet people who are interested in the same thing or even just curious about the same thing. And I think those are little moments of joy where you realize, hey, I'm making a more tangible impact. Like I can see it. I can see conversations being created, a safe space being created, and I get to see people bond over a similar topic. Yeah, I think those are like little moments you feel that all the energy and all the effort put in is very much worth it. Yeah, so I think those are moments that I really treasure also. Yes.
Afzal?
Back to the beginning, I talked about empowerment and how it's not about doing something to community or for community. It's about doing something with community. I think since my experience earlier on in Youth Corps, having not just seen and heard that, but to have experienced that through Youth Corps Leaders Program, a lot of things I've done along the way, be it in volunteering or in work or at home or with my family or with my friends, a lot of it is about how can we do things together with, not to and not for. If I can give an example, during my Youth Corps Leaders Program, one thing that really stood out to me, which kind of shifted my lenses of what it looks like in Singapore, is there were people that my first experience of being in a one-room rental flat, for example. One example that I can share about how it was very easy to do something to someone or for someone, but we brought the community in, was there was a young boy who his birthday was coming soon, and it was the exact day that we were having our final event for our Youth Corps Leaders Program. It would have been very easy to just set up his house, make it look pretty and very nice, get him a birthday cake, and I give you a happy birthday, congratulations. What we did instead was we brought the community together, the neighbours chipped in, our fellow friends from National Youth Council offered to chip in, other teams from Youth Corps Leaders Program also chipped in, and everybody made it such a big community experience that I think that really showed how, when called upon, I think the power of a rallying spirit is very, very powerful. And I think that's something that I've brought along since I started my Youth Corps journey. That, very cliche lah, but alone you can do so much. Together we can go much further. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And was there a choice, as in if you're volunteering, right? Would you be able to put in the amount of time that you wish to put in? Or was it dependent on the type of cause or the projects that you're working on?
I think for me, because it's a mental health cluster, right? So, I mean, when you join the cluster, there are like roles and responsibilities because it's also a youth-led group. A lot of it depends on how much we want to put in as a cluster. So I guess it's, to some extent, yes, you get to choose, but to some extent, no, you don't really get to choose. Yeah, I think it's a fine line between both. But I think it's really managing your own expectation. As a volunteer, how much can I afford to contribute? Because we still have our day jobs, we still have our personal lives. Like, how much can we contribute without burning out that passion in us? So I think it's also, like what you said, it's really the healthy boundary settings, right? So I mean, we can choose to commit a lot and then we burn out. Yeah, so I think it's a choice. It's still a choice. Yeah, I think at this point, I choose to commit more because I feel like I want to do more while I can. Yeah. And as much as the topic is growing also, just make use of it to kind of bring more awareness and voice. Yeah.
Yeah, mental health has recently been
because of COVID as well.
Topic.
Yeah.
Agree. I think for me, the conversation around healthy boundaries came to mind when I think you asked about time. Mm-hmm. I think after what Val you just shared, what came to mind was less about time management, but more energy management. I think some days I have a lot of time, but just really feel very tired, or I don't have the energy or willpower to just get stuff done. This is where our friends come along, like, hey friend, I can't make it today, can you cover for me, and things like that. I think the great thing about Youth Corps is that people come in because they want to, not because they need to. So everyone is kind of like in the boat together and we're all helping one another. So that's kind of like a prerequisite to coming to Youth Corps. Not this on resume or whatever lah. But yeah, I think it's about energy management, and on a deeper level would be, can you, or how aware are you of your own self that you can say, okay, you know what, I think this is my limit and that's okay for now.
Wow. Any last words that you might want to put in that you have for youths who are interested in volunteering? Valerie, ladies first again? Wow.
I think I'll go back to the just do it. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of opportunities out there. I think it's searching out what opportunity suits you. suits your interests, suits your needs, and just try. Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you don't try, you never know how volunteering is or what joys volunteering can bring. Yeah, even if it's a small one-time off, it's a start. Yeah, so I think just try somewhere. There's never like a bad spot or a bad place to start. Yeah.
Afzal.
Wow, copy my answer this time. I think if I could just share, when Val, you shared again, knock something like a memory of a friend who was youth corps leader from way earlier, I think about 2016. He shared something that I thought was very short and insightful. I think he shared that volunteering is not a way of giving, it's a way of living. And I think for me personally, what I got out of what he shared at the point of time was that, it's not in the big things that we do, go to someone's house, door knock, that's great. But volunteering could be as simple as, can I open the door for you as you walk past? Can I help you clear your trash? Like, hey, your bottle finished already, drink? I throw for you. I think these are the little kind of, can we see that volunteering is in our everyday rather than the big things? So I think that makes it a lot more, a lot scarier lah. Like volunteering so big, so difficult. But I think can we see it in the little things that we do every day? I think that's a good start.
Okay. Thanks both for your insights of volunteering with Youth Corps. And if you're youth listening in, there are more learning and volunteering opportunities for you so that you can take action and do good together, one small step at a time. Look up the Youth Corps website at youthcorps.gov.sg or head over to their Telegram channel at YouthCorpsSG. These opportunities will allow youth volunteers to make a difference in someone's life and create a caring and inclusive society. Well, that's a wrap for In Your Opinion, a podcast series by the Straits Times. You can email us your thoughts on this issue. Also, if you'd like to read ST articles or opinion columns, all these links in our podcast show notes. This episode is brought to you by the National Youth Council. Thanks for listening.